Okay, Suits, we got you on the phone today. I got to ask you, from these bands that are playing Connexus Arts Center Shake the Lake this weekend, which one would you really want to see? Helix, Finger 11, Default, the Stampeders, Trooper, or the Headstones?
Oh, Trooper.
I knew you were going to say that, Suits.
That's Trooper for sure. I mean, come on. I mean, that's right. That the Trooper, the hits from Trooper are going to bring you right back to what? Probably high school graduation, possibly, or just beyond that, maybe college. And but that's what music does, right? It takes you back to memories, and sometimes good, sometimes not so good, depending on the song or the artist. But Trooper, for me, that's a no-brainer.
And they're from Vancouver. They're from your neck of the... We're here for a good time, raise a little hell. 3 dressed up as a 9, Boys in the Bright Whites.
Yes.
Lots of tunes, Suits, eh? You would have probably been pumped up for games listening to Trooper.
That was back when you wore silk shirts and white pants. Remember that? Like, that was when...
I was 3.
The Hawaii... Okay. Yeah, I think I was in high school for sure, because I remember dancing to Trooper with white pants and a silk shirt on, which I would never put on today. But you just named the hits. I mean, I'm already flashing back as you just say the titles.
White pants and silk shirt. We might need a new graphic for Suits. We might have to get rid of Bob the Bear and go with that. Nice week of football this past weekend. Let's start with the Riders, 8-1. What did you see in that game?
Yeah, Riders are the best team in the league. And now it's sort of, that was the statement game to me to prove it. And I mean, there's lots that can happen, and you have to stay on top of things and stay focused and all of those great cliches. But at the end of the day, you are what your record is, and if that's the case, the Riders are the best team in the league. And going into the game on the pregame show, we talked about so many people in that matchup thinking it was going to be really high scoring. And, my input from that was the Riders' defense to me is too strong in their front four by itself. Collectively, they may have the best front four, arguably the best front four in the league. So when you calculate that, thinking that they can rush 4 or just 3 and still get big-time pressure, that means they're dropping 9 or 8, and it's tighter windows, and it confuses quarterbacks, and even veterans will hold the ball a little bit longer. And that's why I wasn't so sure that the over was the bet in that game, even though everyone was talking about Bo Levi Mitchell versus Trevor Harris, and there's going to be tons of points, and it's probably going to be 70. I think Milt even was up there in his prediction of how many points would be scored. And I thought, I'm not sure we're giving enough credit to the Rider defense. Their front four is, something that an entity that the Ticats have not faced until then. Their back end is a veteran group that will take the ball from you. And, Jameer Thurman's one of the best leaders in the middle anyway. So, yeah, I wasn't surprised by the outcome because I've been impressed with the Rider defense, honestly.
Yeah, well, it's you rush when you can do what you're doing with the 4, like you said. Going back to the game though, very windy conditions. Hot button topic: Brett Lawther. A few more weeks to work out the kinks. Do you think they're gonna maybe bring somebody in, or do you just let the veteran work it out on his own?
Well, we've talked about this, and I my opinion is not going to change here. I think if you trade for a veteran kicker, if it's even possible, you are saying to Brett that it's over. Basically, we're bringing in another guy that's proven, and we're going to make a change. I think it's better to bring in a young, live leg that in practice, might hit 85%, but do it very impressively because he's young and he's got a live leg and is going to put it 20 yards past the uprights anyway. But it pushes Lawther to continue to work on his game, keep his focus. And I've said it many, many times that competition is way better than any coach's speech. You know, it's even better than trash talking and, you know, feeling disrespected by the opponent. The guy behind you on the depth chart is going to push you more than anything. And that's what I would still do. And I would tell Brett, it's still your job. You know, but this is a results-oriented business, and I think he will be fine. I really do. I still do, and I haven't, because I see him striking the ball, and I think, you know, he's hitting it cleanly. It's just, it must be that he's overthinking it at times, or he's putting extra pressure on himself. I'm not sure. Only he can answer that. But the one thing I do know is that you bring in a relatively unknown live leg and say, we're just bringing him in for competition, we're going to see, that'll push him more than anything.
I know we talked about it too, and you said 3 scores. You keep everybody in at 3 scores. But I'm wondering if Coach Mace, and if we do get to another, you know, where it's maybe out of reach a little bit, if he is a little more quick on the trigger and pulling Harris after that hit he took in the 4th.
You know, I'm going to pay for this, I'm sure. But I think at times coaches with veteran quarterbacks, and even some young ones that we know are going to be, you know, all-stars, like Nathan Rourke or Davis Alexander, I think coaches may be getting a little reckless at the end of the games. And you know, it's tough because I have seen the 3-score comeback, and so have many of these coaches. And they don't want to be, you know, the ones that everyone's talking about. How did you give up a 3-possession game? How did you give that up at the end in the 4th quarter? They don't want to be answering those questions. Mm-hmm. However, to me, it's a confidence-building move to pull your starter to say, job well done. We're up 3 scores. We're up 3 possessions here. So that could be, you know, a 17-point game, basically. It could be, you need 3 possessions to either tie or go ahead. And if you get to that point with 5 minutes to go, thank you, Trevor. Job well done. Yeah. We believe in our backup to continue with the high standard that we've set. That's why the backup is there. So go ahead and run the offense through the backup. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just, these guys are just too valuable, and I don't know. I'm with you guys. Like, 7 minutes to go, 3-score lead. I'm saying get him out.
Yeah, well, especially now after he took that lick that Colson was just playing. If you're watching the feed on YouTube, anybody out there, the West, Glenn. You know, last week, Saski wins big, BC, Edmonton, Winnipeg. The West is rolling here, and the Lions now starting to look really legit.
It's a great point, Barney, because right now the Lions have taken a step. And I've said, and we talked about this about a month and a half ago, that Nathan Rourke is playing at a level where he can score with any team in the league right now. Their offense can keep track or keep pace with any other team offensively. So he could go dual drives or whatever. Their issue has been their defense. Their issue for BC has been that they weren't good enough on the front 4. They weren't stopping the run. You know, they were giving up way too many yards, and their secondary was, you know, let's be honest, had some issues in tackling. So you fast forward these last 2 weeks now, they played their best football. Their front 4 has made a difference, and they've done it. They got more pressure in this last game than they have all season long with just their 4 front guys. And Matthew Betts was prominent. You saw him quite often causing problems. And I know it's a 3rd or 4th string quarterbacks that they're facing, but it doesn't change. The O-line was starters, and the D-line won in that game, and it was also the best game for the Lions from their secondary tackling. Mm. And if they shore those 2 things up, they're right in the mix. Like if they play defense like that the rest of the year, they're going to take a run.
Okay, can I ask you this? And let's say it's the end of the year, and both quarterbacks are healthy for both teams. Teams are relatively healthy. You got You got one game. Who are you taking, Winnipeg or BC?
Right now, probably BC. That I don't make predictions and stuff, but I really am impressed. First of all, Nathan Rourke is now what? He's thrown for over 400 once, I think, in the season. I think 5 of his 7 starts, he's over 300. I think the Lions, if they could, all they needed to do was shore up their defense. And let's wait though. They've only played at this level defensively for 2 weeks. And let's see in the next 3 weeks if they can maintain that level. Because if they can, here's a outside prediction. If they can maintain that level of play on defense, they're going to be 3-0 in their next 3.
What's your take on the Argos playing 3 home games in other parks and maybe not looking closer to the GTA?
Yeah, I mean, from the surface, I don't like it really. When you're not in the meetings, you haven't heard the stats, the numbers, the options, the dates, all of those things that come into these decisions. Having not been in those meetings, it's a little unfair to get all wound up about it. But ideally, it takes 3. Ideally, you'd like to figure out a way to play where your home crowd, your season ticket holders, can get to your home games relatively easily. So, if that was in Vancouver, for instance, Amar Doman, I don't think yet, unless he did it today, hasn't announced exactly what they're going to do with the World Cup. But my guess would be that Amar Doman will try to figure out maybe a Vancouver Island option. And he's already played a game on the island. He built a temporary stadium, which costs money. And his season ticket holders relatively easily can make it to those games. When the Argos have announced to play in Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, and Hamilton, they can't get to 2 of those games unless they're flying and booking hotels and things like that. That's the part that, I'm not crazy about. But it's tough to be overly critical when you're not in the meetings and don't see the options and the numbers.
It just seems there would be so many options in that area, or even if you wanted to go a little bit further out of the GTA, of parks that would be able to hold their 8,000 to 10,000 people, whatever they would get. That I like you said, we don't know the ins and outs, the inside baseball. We don't know. But I was going to ask you about the Lions. I like the island, and I totally forgot about kind of what they built there. I remember you were super excited to go work that game last year. Why wouldn't a guy?
Yeah.
But does Kamloops come into play? Does Kelowna come into play for the Lions, do you think?
Yeah, I think when you work with the community, the local government, and you are working on costs of building the temporary stadium, making sure the field is safe and meets the standards of pro football, and all of those sort of logistical issues that you have to work out. Once that is done, you put it all together, and as long as all parties are saying, yeah, we're here to help. That was the case on the island. The local government on the island wanted that to happen. And when local government wants it to happen, they find a way. They share the costs. They work on the logistics, how to get people to and from, how about safety, how about washrooms, all of those things. Concessions. But yeah, I would say, just guessing from the outside, I haven't talked to Amar recently, but I would guess that Kelowna would be in the mix, Vancouver Island would be in the mix. And the second option to me, beyond where your season ticket holders could get to your games, your home games, would be the neutral site Halifax.
Oh.
So why not try to arrange 3 games for the Argos in Halifax? And, if you're going to have to move away from your where your season ticket holders can get there comfortably, then do it in a neutral site where you're trying to build a new market. So there, I don't know. It's again, I want to be careful because I'm reluctant to get critical when I'm not in the meeting.
And then kind of the hamster wheel was going, and I'm like, I would take Saskatoon as maybe an option.
Absolutely, a neutral site.
Yeah,
and Argos and Lions play there, for a game, and the Riders may not be in that game, but you're bringing pro football in a regular season game to a new market, like they did in Halifax. That was great. It was great for the game. It was great for amateur football there. It was, it got people talking, got people engaged. So yeah, I know that more and more details will come out as to why these choices are being made, but we'll see. And let's see what Amar Doman does in Vancouver.
Yeah, well, that is going to be an interesting one. If there's a Victoria game and they need an usher or any kind of, manual labor, let me know. Tough news. Let's close on this. It keeps getting worse for the Alouettes. Caleb Evans suffers a torn ACL, out for the season. They signed Shea Patterson today. It's kind of the worst fear of a CFL team, CFL fan base, is just quarterback after quarterback keep going down.
Yeah, it is unlucky that they have been hit like that in the same position, and it's the most important position on the field, probably in sports, to be honest. And I mean, I think the coach's message, and Jason Moss in this case, is going to try and sell that football is a team game. And I think as a coach, you can do that when you're on your number 2 and maybe your number 3. But when you get to 5, and no, this is not disrespect for Shea Patterson, but he's got a lot of learning to do. It's going to be a steep curve. And, he's got the physical skills. There's no question about that. And they're going to have to change their approach and probably be more conservative, at least early. But it is part of the game. It's just unlucky when you get hit in one position. It's like losing 6 receivers by this time of the year. Yeah. Now you're just like down to 3rd and 4th, 5th, guys. So yeah, tough on Montreal, but I know the other teams in the league aren't feeling sorry for them.
What? And I know it's only Tuesday. What games do you got this week?
Well, Barney, this has never happened before in my 30 years in television. I have the week off and are going to do a little fishing trip with my kid. I'm thinking we're living with the Bears anyway. We might as well go camping or something. And it's, before summer ends and we get back into fall and the turn at Labor Day, my next game is the Labor Day game in Regina, so Labor Day Sunday. So for the first time ever, I'm going to have a week off.
What, right? So, Colson, we can expect maybe some salmon dropped off at the station when you come for the Labor Day game, or what kind of fishing are you doing?
Well, the first thing I'll do is send you pictures. I know you can't eat the pictures, but maybe I can vacuum pack some and bring them out to you in Saskatchewan.
I would actually prefer a video of you with a salmon and throwing it on your lawn, and let's see how long before Bob comes by and eats that because I don't eat seafood, so that'd be it for me. Are we going to talk Thursday then?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, Suits. Thanks so much. Enjoy the week off. Talk to you Thursday.
Yeah, sound good, guys.
Right
Thanks.
On.